everything in my life, I give glory to God to literally every single thing.
You have a $7 million fund that you are raising, and you've already raised half of that.
A lot of people don't know that the gaming industry is the largest entertainment industry in the world.
Wow.
It's bigger than music, film, and sports combined.
Wow.
One, I'm like 0.000000014 of women that own a gaming company in the world. I had a penthouse in Jersey City, an apartment in LA, a house in Orlando, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to afford my life anymore. And I didn't really know what to do. Special guests were like Jadakiss and Lola Brooks and Miss Basketball, Hip Hop Gamer. You know, we've had like Rock Nation, Atlantic come to the space looking for talent. Do y'all hear that? That's the sound of me breaking out of that box you put me in.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Your Hero's Journey, a holistic business podcast where we discuss the mental, spiritual, and of course the tactical approaches to becoming a successful entrepreneur. We are in season 2, which means we are focused all on today's community builders. That essentially means anyone who has carved out a niche space in the marketplace and has the ability to gather at least 1,000 people, whether digitally or in real life. I am your host, Savannah Hart, and I have a very special, honorable guest with me, Letta Jaye. Now, Jaye is so multifaceted. She has lived so many lives. She has been an artist, worked in business, is a wine sommelier, had a wine business. But today we are going to focus on her latest creative baby, Coexist Gaming. Now, Coexist Gaming is a membership-based gaming community, although they do hail a 3-floor location in Midtown. And you know Midtown is one of the most expensive locations, but Jaye has done that and brings members from all over the tri-state area and also globally through a digital platform where they have over 100,000 of members. Jaye, thank you so much for sharing your space and your time with us today.
It's my honor, literally.
I am so happy to have this conversation, especially after our 4-hour conversation that we had before. Look,
that was a magical dinner. So yesterday, a friend of mine called me and we were just talking, and she says, I love that you sound like you're so happy. I was like, listen, I met this girl. I was like, first of all, I met her at the south of France. So if you're gonna meet somebody, let it be the south of France.
That's the place.
I was like, but she is so magical. I was like, she is made of unicorn dust. I'm convinced.
Oh, I love that. And can I just say the feeling is so mutual. And I just am really excited to bring all of our gems and our energy to this podcast. So thank you in advance.
Yeah.
So as always, we're going to start with a little just rapid fire questions just so our audience can get an understanding of just like who you are and where you come from. Okay. So what is your ethnic background and where were you raised?
Yeah, so pero yo soy dominicana. Yo nací
okay.
en Barahona.
Oh my gosh, and today's the Dominican parade.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for skipping that to be with us.
I know this weather. I was like, what's going on? But yes, so I'm Dominican. And I grew up in Dallas, Texas. So interestingly enough, my father's Dominican, my mom is Black and Mexican. Okay. So there's like a whole side of my family. And of course, in Texas, it is very Mexican dominant. So that was, I think, a part of my culture that was very, very dominant in just my upbringing.
Okay, love that. And how did you get into gaming?
I have been playing video games since I was 4 years old. So I was gifted an NES game system and English. I didn't speak English well. Spanish was my first language. And so I watched games build community for me. I grew up in an area in Dallas that is like the super duper hood. Like South Dallas had a higher crime rate than Chicago at one point. And so there were drive-bys on the streets, and a lot of times it was safer to play inside. And so my abuelita would literally be like, I thought she was just yelling, but because you don't know as a kid.
Right. You don't know.
Go inside and play your system, But I was the girl on the block with the system. And so gaming was like this grand equalizer. It didn't matter my race, my culture, my ethnicity, my language. Nobody could find the princess faster than me on Super Mario.
Okay, I love that so much. Exactly.
So it has a very special place in my heart in terms of watching what it can do for a community.
And what do you define community as?
That is such a great question. Knowing that word literally is a combination of both a commune and then unity. I think it is about coexistence.
Hmm.
And that's really the really where coexist even derives from.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that we can cohabitate, right? That's like living in accordance with a similar synergy, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But to coexist is to literally understand your needs and my needs, and understand not just what we're bringing to the table, but what does the table need,
That is so beautiful.
you know?
Where would you say you currently are in your entrepreneurial journey?
I'm in a growth phase. I build businesses to be scalable from their inception. So one of the funniest things I think is people are always like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna stop by the lounge. I'm gonna see you." I'm like, "That's
Mhm.
amazing. I'm never there." You know?
Yep.
And so when I say that, it's like I tell my team, because I don't even call them, we don't call them staff. It's like you're not working for
Mhm.
me, you're working with me.
Mhm.
But if I need to be here every day, I've already failed. Because how in the world am I supposed to open up a bunch more if I am required to be at a single place?
Mhm.
So even from when we started the company, my Brooklyn duplex, we grew to 3 locations simultaneously. Can't be everywhere at once.
Mhm.
So knowing that that's how I started, now the goal is to significantly extrapolate that growth exponentially,
Mhm.
and to just kind of take over in terms of building these safe spaces, building these spaces with an inclusive and representation mindset at the inception and like infrastructural level.
And you are definitely in the progress of taking over.
I'm
Let me
working on it.
just let me just tell you, I can't wait to get into it. Okay, and would you consider yourself a person of faith, spiritual, religious?
That's my favorite question. Like everything in my life, I give glory to God to literally every single thing.
Amen.
Every single thing. And I think actually the success that I amass is literally because God trusts me with it. If you're faithful over small things, God will make you ruler over many, and that's the plan.
Amen. Amen. Oh my gosh, I need that on a t-shirt on my
Yes.
wall. Oh, I live in that. I live and walk in that so much.
Yes.
Okay, so I mentioned that Coexist is a
Mhm.
membership-based community,
Mhm.
but you do also have a production arm and
Yeah.
many other capabilities under Coexist.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give us just an overview of what that consists
Yeah,
of?
of course. So, Coexist is actually a gamification and tech agency. And
Okay.
that's actually what like the conglomerate of the company is.
Okay.
But there's 3 pillars underneath that umbrella.
Okay.
The shiny toy that, of course, everybody loves is the 3-story space
Mhm.
that is really like Soho House and WeWork if they coexisted. So
Mhm.
it's the membership base. If you're not a member, you get to enjoy the day pass. But our goal with that was to like break the pay to play model. It
Mhm.
was like shout out to Dave and Buster's and Barcade. They did great things bursting down barriers. But
Mhm.
we didn't want to build a space where you could walk in and it was free, but you had to pay to play everything.
Mhm.
We really wanted to not have to clock your time. We wanted you to build meaningful, significant connections.
Mhm.
But then knowing that we built that space where community thrives, we wanted it to scale agnostic of that particular location geographically. So
Mhm.
our production team is able to literally kind of build iterations of that or anything that you want to see. We could build a yacht out of literally materials and put it in a convention center. And
Mhm.
so we've done just a lot of really high level stuff in terms of brand integrations and activating brands in a gamified ecosystem.
Mhm.
And then the tech we build, which is like Coexist Studios, we build games, but our games are usually very like hyper casual mini games that are designed to not for monetization in terms of direct to consumer, but
Mhm.
more so to show the cross section of where pop culture and gaming can coexist. So, like the
Mhm.
Kendrick Lamar Not Like Us game. We sort of capitalized on that moment and built a game that would allow people to just see that cross section.
Oh my gosh, you guys were behind that?
Yeah.
That is amazing, and that
Yeah.
was such a cultural moment, so you guys really worked quickly on that. I'm surprised.
Super
I
quick.
feel like normally games take a really long time to develop.
Yeah, they do. So games can take years. I mean, obviously like
Mhm.
GTA, but they also can cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mhm.
One of our superpowers and also our niche is creating hyper casual games that we can build very quickly at a
Mhm.
reasonably low cost by comparison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, which of those verticals would you say brings in the most revenue?
So, that's a good question. All of them have the potential to bring in, like, really, the Coexist Studios
Mhm.
and Coexist Productions bring in the most revenue.
Mhm.
But I think at a time, probably the productions, but that's because you are literally paying for materials and labor, and it's a large project.
Mm.
So those are multi-million dollar budgeted deals,
Mhm.
But the expenses are also high. So I think in terms of the better margins, it's definitely the tech
Mm.
because those can be, from 25,000 to like 150,000,
Mhm.
but you're also spending a lot less because you are building like interactive tech that is meant to just be consumed and enjoyed by whomever the intended audience is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, which of those verticals do you foresee taking Coexist where you foresee it?
Yeah, so there's always the roadmap, right?
Mhm.
In terms of impact from a consumer facing perspective, it's definitely the Coexist house
Okay.
because these locations are impacting hundreds of thousands of people across different geographies, right?
Mhm.
Right now we're like in Times Square. So we're seeing there's just a lot of traffic, there's like a lot of activity. So the growth of that, it's slower because it is a physical space,
Mhm.
but the consumer impact is massive. But when I think about it from just like a straight business perspective, everything digital will always cast a broader net.
Mm.
So leveraging what happens in that physical space technically will always cause it to grow faster. So
Mhm.
one of the focuses that I'm always like in terms of growth is not making Coexist a physical thing, which is why I'm always telling people, I'm like, so the company is actually a tech and gamification agency, but
Hmm.
among the services we provide, which are digital and physical infrastructure, I always make that like the distinction so people know. I want people on the street knowing and asking, how do you coexist, no matter where they are in the
Mm.
world? Because I think it's a question we should ask, but also with that physical infrastructure in terms of the impact, there's like the consumers, but we also build gaming classrooms.
Mhm.
So we built the first gaming classroom at the Denzel Washington School of the Arts in Mount Vernon. And our goal is to revolutionize education through gamification. So again, in front of consumers that we need to transform their narrative behind
Mhm.
what the gaming and adjacent industries look like in terms of opportunity. And
Mhm.
for us, it's not just about playing any game. I always joke when they're like, "What games you play?" I say, "I play the ones I build."
Okay, I
You know what
hear
I'm
that.
saying?
I hear that. I sure do. I sure
And so we're
do.
working to transform the narrative so we can reach as many people and have the kind of global impact we really want.
I honestly love that so much, and it's something groundbreaking that you're doing.
Thank you.
One thing that you mentioned was that we're currently in a space where the dropout rates are at an all-time high. So
Yes.
the what you're doing right now in terms of gamifying
Yeah.
gamifying learning
Yes.
is so imperative. I think especially now we have to evolve education and the way that
Yes.
these kids are learning because the world around them is just in a exponential state of innovation.
Yes.
The ADD and ADHD are at
So
all-time
true.
high because we have TikTok, we have social media that consistently, is always changing screens. What exactly are you doing? I know you mentioned the Denzel Washington School, but
Mhm.
I would love for you to talk a little bit about the bigger project that you're currently undertaking
Yeah.
with the city of Newark. You have a $7 million fund that you are raising, and you've already raised half of that for
Yeah.
this. Talk a little bit about the project and why you feel like it is so important.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Of
So
course.
I was diagnosed with ADD when I was 6.
Mm.
And so I speak a lot about neurodivergence and how everyone just doesn't learn the same way. And we need to create environments that meet people where they are, which is why that representation is so important to me.
Mhm.
And so what I appreciate is that at least we've built this ecosystem that companies, hundreds of billion-dollar companies have reached out to us and said, "We are looking to revolutionize cities and economies, and we want you to bring your ecosystem there."
Wow.
So Newark is one of those cities.
Mhm.
And when Audible reached out to us, and I recently met the CEO of Audible, it was really great to know that their headquarters are in New Jersey, in Newark specifically,
Mhm.
and they have this initiative. And I love that there are just facts when you're doing like market industry research. Like New Jersey is like the number 4 state in America, by the way, in terms of
Really?
education.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In terms of, like, having good education?
Yes, having great
Oh,
education.
okay.
And I'm just like, this is really impressive.
Mhm.
And to be in thriving economies is something that, and I say that because Newark historically has a very tumultuous past.
Mhm.
That's where the race wars occurred. And, Prudential has their arena there, and they are known notoriously for building an underground tunnel. that would allow people to pass to Newark from New York without even being above ground.
Oh, wow.
So Newark is in a city that is in need of kind of like a resurfacing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that the people at the top understand this and are taking action.
Mm-hmm.
And that the reality that they chose us means that they're focused on impact and people that are not just big businesses that are kind of doing more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to Newark, you will see all these coming soon spaces, and we're one of those spaces. We're the anchor tenant in a 100,000 square foot building. We're on the ground floor, and there's just like a whole focus on bringing innovation to the city like they've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't know that the gaming industry is the largest entertainment industry in the world.
Wow.
It's bigger than music, film, and sports combined.
Wow.
And out of 7.5 billion people on the planet, 3.5 billion of them are actively playing video games. 50% of that 3.5 billion are women.
Mm-hmm.
This is a $203 billion industry, 100 billion of which is in mobile gaming, and 65% of mobile gamers are women. So we're talking about
And
an
I don't
industry.
think that's the narrative.
Yes. That's why it's like, it's crazy when you really put the numbers behind it, because women are trailblazing an industry that is so very white male dominated that we don't even feel like we fit in it, and we don't understand. It's like, girl, you're the Candy Crush champion. You didn't even know, And so I think it just matters. So I'm excited about this particular project because one, I'm like 0.0000000014 of women that own a gaming company in the world, and certainly a woman of color. And so our perspectives matter. We generally don't always get opportunities in the real estate arena to express things that have attached themselves to us emotionally and then monetize those. And this is an example of that. It is this beautiful co-working space. It's inclusive, it's innovative. When you walk into it, you feel like you are transported to a vortex in another stratosphere. And it's like co-working during the day where you've got meeting rooms and spaces all powered by our app that allows you to also earn points, of course, in gaming, but you can use those points outside of Coexist as well. We currently have a little over 2,000 restaurants, lounges, and brick and mortar spaces that are all of our partners that will be accepting this virtual currency. And we're not talking about a chain. It's agnostic of any chain because we wanted to reduce barriers of entry and we are gamifying the economy.
Wow. That is one way to really build a community.
Yeah.
And it has so many legs. So it's like, I can just see it being so beneficial in so many ways.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get into, as you mentioned, you are 0.00004 of Black women in this space who are also just really, like I mentioned, like doing groundbreaking things. But you, although may be an anomaly in this space, you know your worth and you walk in that faith. And that is why you are already halfway through raising your $7 million goal. Even to the point where they initially offered you 6 figures and you negotiated to the point where they offered you 10 times more.
Yes.
Talk about that negotiation process with us.
Yeah. You know what? It's a great point. We have to know when we say a lot of like colloquialisms, but know your value, those 3 words, we have to live in that, which means if you know your value, you know you have to walk away from things that just don't make sense for you. And I think a lot of times, particularly as people of color, we were not always exposed to money, which means we were not exposed to money conversations. And so when somebody puts a few $100,000 in front of you, you're like,
You've never seen that amount.
Absolutely. But it's like, okay, but is that what you need? And for me, that's where faith comes in. It's like, okay, but the God that I serve is like, that's cute, but did I not build this world?
Okay.
Okay.
Talk about it.
So you're going to reduce me to like what impresses you? Or are you going to let me be God? And so I'm always like, my parents are both pastors. So my mom is always, one of my favorite scriptures is like, bring the Lord in remembrance of his word.
Amen.
I'm like, Lord, you said floodgates. I don't know how big those are, but I think they're bigger than that number that they gave me. So, so I think the negotiation was really simple for me. Um, because remember, they came to us, right? Which is a blessing within itself. If you do enough work for them to come to you, you have the leverage, right? And so I was just like, listen, I'm very, very appreciative of this offer. Newark was not on our roadmap. This is not in the top 10 cities where the largest concentration of human beings on the planet exists in terms of gaming and creators. We would love to bring this ecosystem to you. But unfortunately, that number isn't something that makes sense for us right now. We need to have the kind of incentives that will allow us to prioritize this project. So, you know, once those figures go up to 6, then I'd love to have more conversations about how we can logistically bring this to fruition. And then they came back with 6.
They sure
and I said, that's great. So let me get these 3, 6, sorry, with 7 figures, my bad. When they came back with the 7, I said, that's cute. But those initial 6 you gave us, what are you doing with that part of it? I was like, why do you add that on there? Now we're winning.
I love
And
that.
then we get to leverage that lead in all of the other conversations.
I love that you grounded yourself in that, because I do also feel like, especially in our culture as women of color, we are very conditioned, and especially being women of faith,
Yes.
to be grateful.
Yes.
But you can still be grateful, but understand that you deserve more.
It's true.
I really love that distinction
It's
that
true.
you made.
I want to tell you this. So my first company was a wine education and events company. I had just come off my record deal. So my life was kind of like, it wasn't in shambles. I was just kind of depressed because I had a penthouse in Jersey City, an apartment in LA, a house in Orlando. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to afford my life anymore. And I didn't really know what to do. I'd worked to get to this place, to get to the $1 million record deal. And then you lost it because of stuff beyond your control. So I started this company because I've been working in food and beverage since I was like 12. And with this company, I was like, I'm going to just teach wine classes. I'm going to do something that allows me. I needed to step away from music because I was just heartbroken, and like in this place. I didn't know how much to charge for the classes because you aren't paying for just like a wine class, right? You're paying for the years I spent in this wine school, studying in the south of France, the thousands of wines that I've tasted. Like, you're paying for the knowledge a person has, and also the way that they're repackaging that information for you to ingest and to learn and walk away with it. I say that because fast forward to ultimately the wine company growing and being B2B forward. We were charging like $50 per person initially, right? And I was looking at the numbers and I was like, this is not making sense. Like charcuterie and the wines I'm buying, this stuff is not cheap. And what I really needed to charge was $200 per person. And I was so afraid to charge what I should have been charging. And this is why I know God always looks out for me. Amex, they were our first client. The lady from Amex sent an email to me and said, we love your wine tastings. We love that they're so innovative, that you blind taste literally, because we would wear sleep masks. She says, we're doing our Women Interest Network. We've got 150 women, and we would love to have you come and speak and conduct a wine tasting. And I said, absolutely. I was like, can you share with me? I said, we work around budgets instead of giving her that figure.
I like
Because
that.
I would
like
walked myself out of so much money. When I did the math, their budget was $250 per person.
Look at that.
And so that became my new standard. It also helped me understand that I may not have been my target audience. We are charging not enough for what we are offering, what we have sown in ourselves and invested in. And that moment 10 years ago helped me understand who I need to be and how I need to operate. And like, if you say you are a person of faith, well, this is what that looks like. We don't have a bargain God.
Say that again.
We do not serve a bargain God.
Amen.
And we need to exist in that excellence in every facet of our lives. And that doesn't mean you'd be unnecessarily anything, right? It just means you need to understand who you are and command that value and stand on that and be okay. And if it's not the opportunity, it's okay, because it actually hurts you more to try to create this experience without the resources you need. you know, and
That's
God is here
true.
to provide what we need, not to for us to exist in scarcity,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
Yeah.
we do that to ourselves. We got to stop marginalizing ourselves.
I agree. I
Mhm.
agree. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so let's get into the breakdown of Coexist Gaming,
Yeah.
the membership vertical of it
Mhm.
all. Because even within that, you've built something really intricate to ensure that you do always have revenue.
Yeah.
So even within your space in the
Mhm.
3-floor location that you have in Midtown, when I did visit, you have everything from like, I think it's like what, 25,000 games?
Yeah. Freaking
I
oh
didn't even
yeah.
know that many
I know.
games existed. But you have over 25,000 games, even games down to Uno and Jenga. But at
Mhm.
the same time, you have a whole panel going on in the basement as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
Talk about how you built this whole ecosystem to really feed the revenue model of
Yeah.
the location.
Yeah. So literally when I say inclusion and representation,
Mm-hmm.
the inclusion part, we wanted to make sure everybody could feel like there was something that they could do in the space.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super extroverted, but I build experiences for the introvert. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to be able to walk into space because introverts are social too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I wanted there. And the cool thing about like games is you can walk up to an arcade and there's two sticks, which means someone can always just be welcome to now create an experience
I
with
love
you.
that.
And so that's why I was like, games are the perfect medium to do that. But I didn't want it to just be video games. I
Mhm.
wanted it to be board games, card games, tabletop games, foosball, pool table, like any kind of game you could think of. I
Mhm.
wanted it to coexist in the space.
Mhm.
And then in terms of the representation, every floor and different parts of the floors offers something uniquely different that would speak to a different type of person.
Mhm.
So when you walk in on the main floor, it's like super colorful, you know, LED lights. It gives you very sort of
Mhm.
gaming convention vibes.
Mhm.
And you know, it's changed. It was very gaming forward in the beginning, where it was like kind of a museum. There were consoles chronologically in order, from like the
Mhm.
Atari to, you know, Sega Genesis, and then the, you know, Dreamcast, and then the Saturn, and then the PlayStation 1 and 2, 3, and so on, original Xbox, and then the NES, Super NES 64. So it's like a lot of retro in the beginning. And we have suggestion boxes on every floor. We would get a lot of really women that were like, you know, the space is super cool, but there should be more lounge areas, right? And
Mhm.
I had built a whole like lounge in an area, but I was like, if they want more, I literally rearranged all of the retro systems to disperse them in more areas
Mhm.
and made the first part of it, as you saw,
Yep.
a lounge with
Mhm.
these velvet tufted couches that felt kind of like upper echelon, but like a touch of feminine.
Mhm.
And I always joke and say where women are, everybody wants to be, you know?
Mhm.
So if we're comfortable in spaces, then
Mhm.
we're already meeting that 50% representation in the gaming industry that you are not seeing in other places.
Mhm.
So when you walk in, it feels like a lounge,
Mhm.
which makes sense because it started in my home. I want you to feel like you're welcomed here. I want
Mhm.
you to feel like you can sit and chill. If your feet hurt, take a picture, whatever you want to do. But then there's also the bar. And so we have a full food and beverage program. It's a gaming bar because there are little game handhelds on the bar. But even the inclusion with the food and beverage, you can be vegan, pescatarian, lactose intolerant. You can be sober, not want alcohol. We have amazing
Wow.
mocktails. So it was like
Mhm.
consideration to just the most minute detail. And then there's another area which a lot of some of our influencer like members use for a media room. It's got lights. You can have green screens, and so it's equipped with from high hertz monitors
Mhm.
to consoles for engagement to couches that are great for shooting a podcast with
Mhm.
really cool little sayings and things everywhere. So it's really just kind of thinking about a lot of the needs people have.
Mhm.
Water dispensers, we have our new podcast room all the way in the back called the Pod that is really very modular. So it embraces 7 different sets that you can choose from all in one
Wow.
room. And then when you go upstairs, upstairs is more traditional game forward. So we call it the Coliseum,
Mhm.
which is, where you would compete, right? So it's got like the modern day next gen systems, PlayStation 5s, the
Mhm.
PCs, some Nintendo Switches. And then there's also the pool table and foosball. There's seating on each floor,
Mhm.
there's service on each floor. Our music studio is also on that floor. and it's like super soundproof. So you can literally record a song even during operation and you can't even hear anything. Some people also use it as a streaming room. And then, as if that's not enough, those floors,
As
there's
if.
also the Speakeasy Lounge downstairs, which we
Mhm.
call the Den Lounge. And it's a private bar. It's got another food and beverage menu that's more, it's kind of meant to be more share friendly. The space is more swanky,
Mhm.
red carpet on the stairs, gold things, incandescent lighting, Edison bulbs, velvet tufted couches, a lot of seating lounge areas, and then a stage, then our DJ booth.
Wow.
So it's meant to be totally different.
Mhm.
Talks, panels, seminars happen down here. When
Mhm.
we have our deaf ciphers, which are like our game jams, kind of like a hackathon.
Oh, so
Yeah, you're building
cool.
games down there. There's green screens down there, digital whiteboards
Mhm.
for lunch and learns, all sorts of things that we want the professional there, the thought leader, the influencer person there that wants to capture content, or just the person that wants to go on a date.
I love that. And honestly, when I visited there, you can really tell that you did think about all of these different people because you have such a wide array of a demographic there.
Hmm.
Everyone from people who look like they just came off of work in suits,
Right.
white, black, brown, the traditional gamer, like
Yeah.
literally everyone and their mother was just like
Yes.
either enjoying a game of Uno or playing the actual
Yeah.
PlayStation, or I'm not familiar with all of the
That's
consoles, so I'm just
okay.
like
I'm just happy to
I
hear
only
you
know
say that.
PlayStation.
I love that.
But I'm curious, especially, when you're building something that is community based,
Hmm.
how do you find like the unifying thing across all of these different demographics and backgrounds?
Honestly, I think gaming is that unifying thing.
And you mentioned that at the top
Yeah.
of this too.
That's why we chose it, really. I mean, it wasn't just I felt like it changed my life at the beginning, right?
Mhm.
Because I watched it bring people together. It's a little different. You don't see a lot of brown people that are Hispanic, like Afro Latinos in the South,
Mhm.
especially Texas. Like people in Texas can live, shout out to my Texas people, but we can live like in a bubble. Do you know what I mean? I
Mhm,
mean, this is
mhm,
the one state in America that was going to succeed and be its own country,
mhm, mhm.
So I always joke around and I'm like, if you're, black and you have an accent, you're Jamaican. If you're Asian, you're Chinese. If you speak Spanish, you're Mexican. Because
Mhm,
it's like very sort of, monolithic in terms of trains of thought.
mhm.
And oddly enough, I think Texas, maybe Dallas specifically, it has like a good education system. But I'm like, I don't know what y'all
What are you teaching
what's
about?
going on. But it's like it felt like that anyway, at least
Mhm,
for me growing up. And so I say that because when you see something unfamiliar to you, it's very powerful when one thing, like a game, has the ability to magnetize people to it.
mhm,
And you forget about the surface distinctions, right? Like
mhm,
you just focus on the human kind, not
mhm,
like a particular kind of
mhm,
human. It is like this powerful binding agent that ends up being an equalizer. And that's
mm,
really what gaming feels like because at the end of the day, the core of why gaming even exists is it's inclusive and it's fun. And life can be so serious and so much. And
mhm,
people clearly have embraced so many different substances to just escape. So
mhm,
if there can be a positive escape in a non-toxic environment, it's like, okay, more of that, please.
mhm.
You know?
Absolutely, please, please.
Yeah.
We really need those spaces.
And all of those things that were consideration, I think, women, we are natural, we are nurturers.
Mhm,
And there's a mindfulness there. So when you have a
mhm,
space that a woman is birthing into the world,
mhm,
there are all these considerations of how many people can this impact? What do I need to incorporate that will include their need? I
mhm,
need to step inside of a thought process that may not be my own. And so, when I was building the space, we tapped into all of our members and asked them, what do you want to see? They
mhm.
wrote it on the walls of the space and
Wow.
we took pictures of it
That's
and literally
beautiful.
typed every single suggestion. People put accessibility. So we had some of our members that were in wheelchairs. And
Mhm,
accessibility goes beyond just a physical handicap,
mhm.
but we had them come into the space and literally like roll their chairs up to the walls. And that's where we used as the measuring tape for the tables.
Wow.
It was like every consideration because I'm so
So
big.
intentional.
Yes. I always say if we're not at the table, why are you having a conversation about us? And
Mhm,
we're not there to be represented. So
mhm.
it's like now is an opportunity for us to really kind of put action where our words,
Mhm.
generally are.
And how did you take all of that into account when you were building your different tiers of memberships and also
Mhm.
determining what price each one would be?
Yeah, so we did a lot of market industry research, but you got to remember, we started this in a Brooklyn duplex. It was like,
Mm,
if you know, you know, it was
mhm.
so lit.
And do
I
you
was
have the same membership pricing as in the
No,
Brooklyn
it did
duplex?
increase a
Okay.
little bit,
Okay.
but just very small increments.
Okay.
But we started out with this monthly event in Brooklyn. So we knew that we got our first 100 members in a week when we launched it in Brooklyn
Wow.
in an apartment. Okay. It
Wow.
was a dope apartment, but still an apartment.
Mhm.
And when we saw people coming 3 times a week on average,
Mhm.
we were doing giving a lot of little surveys and kind of gamifying. Like if you fill out the survey, you get a free shot, stuff like that. So we accumulated a lot of data. We learned that more than 60% of our members either had a brand or were looking to build one.
Mm.
So we knew we were appealing to the entrepreneur, which was who we are. We
Mhm.
understood it.
Mhm.
And so the second place I opened was a content creator house. It was 3 floors, 6 rooms, and 10 sets. And we had about 14 podcasts within the first 2 months filming out of that
Wow.
space. So we started to understand who we were appealing to.
Mhm.
And when you look up a lot of the members, they had a lot of followers. And so we were like, hey, have you ever thought about bringing your audience to an in real life experience?
Mm.
And so we started streaming and doing these live events, and it was very dope. But we were running out of space. So all of those things were how we created the tiers. So
Mm.
our pro level now is like $30 a month, 25 if you pay for the year, which is actually the price we ended up raising it to in Brooklyn. I know it's super affordable on purpose.
Very, yes.
That's how you know we're focusing on community first. We
Mhm.
want that to be low hanging fruit.
Mhm.
If you just need a place to chill, you get into the space for free
Mhm.
or at a discounted price depending on certain special events.
Mhm.
Stuff like the NBA 2K draft when we hosted that, it was like members only outside of the special guests. And the special guests were like Jadakiss and Lola Brooks and Miss Basketball, Hip Hop Gamer.
Yeah.
So you to be included in that, it was like, okay, I gotta be a member here,
Mhm.
The second tier, and you get like a free drink when you come in with that. But the second tier is the elite tier, and it's for primarily, we kind of think like the thought leader, whether that's a content creator or a person that's building a business, because they get 2+1s. They get to monetize on a higher level. So they get 50% of the door for any events that they have. So they
Oh,
can start monetizing their membership. You can do that on the pro level too, but it's
that's
a
huge.
lesser percentage. And then the co-working, it comes with our ultimate tier, which is $300 a month. And that's access to the space even before the hours of operation.
Mm.
Member tabs. So you can really kind of like woo your guests, bring them to a cool place. And so some of our members, like shout out to the drone cadets, they literally teach kids how to build drones.
Wow.
And then because our ceilings are like 18-foot ceilings, they can fly them. And some of the banners on the wall
That is
become a part of their obstacle course. And they've got their drone cadet
Mhm.
parking vehicle in the front.
Mhm.
And so it's like they get to take it outside, bring it inside. But it's really meeting people where they are, whether you
Mhm.
just want a safe place to chill. A traditional club's not for everybody. So it's like you can come hang out, have some food, drinks if you want to, chill vibe,
Mhm.
kill time before you go to your Broadway play.
Mhm.
Or you can activate this space and use the music studio, use the podcast area, or host your event, host your table read. There's been so many things in the space, education classes, workshops that people have done on how to become an influencer, how to grow your following, like all these things.
Mhm. And you've honestly gotten so creative with, like, I think what you allow your members to
Mhm.
have access to
Yeah.
in a way that most membership-based communities don't.
Mhm.
Like,
It's
as
true.
someone who is part of, and I think membership-based communities are like, they're popping up all over New York now.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, you have a little social club, but
Right.
you really empower your guests, like the 50%
True.
of the door if you're holding an event. Like, that is huge. And that's so
Yes.
attractive to people who are like-minded.
Yes, I totally agree. My TED Talk is on a community powered economy.
Mm.
One of the things that I just really hate is, and I get it, people are looking for things to do.
Mhm.
But there is an example of balancing out the company events and then giving people space to contribute to the ecosystem you've built.
Mm.
And that's a big part of what at least for what coexisting means for us.
Mhm.
It's like we have our understanding of things that may be necessary in terms of programming, but we want to make sure we don't over program
Mhm.
because other people are building things too. I mean, it's why other businesses like Peerspace thrive because
Mhm.
people are looking for physical space to rent
Mhm.
out to do things, right?
Mhm.
But we want to just reduce the barrier of entry to start growing and succeeding in whatever you're growing. And our that's why like when I say infrastructure, knowing that the place is a resource
Mhm.
for whomever needs to take advantage of it. And
Mhm.
so everybody can't rent or spend like thousands on their space. Everyone can't always meet a multi-thousand-dollar bar minimum all the time. But what if
Mhm.
you need to have a meetup once a week? It's
Mhm.
like, if you can afford it, cool. But the truth is at the cost of our membership, that now becomes your rent. So it just gives another, because there's nothing wrong with the communities like targeting a niche market, right?
Mhm.
But we want to just allow people to walk into space um, where their voices can be amplified the way they need them to be.
It's so smart, and even just from a psychological perspective, if you are receiving something,
Hmm.
you're more likely to invest in it,
True.
and when you have buy-in, now you have grounds to
Yeah.
market it yourself. When you
Yeah.
bring other people in, they
Hmm.
see how you're building something in this
Hmm.
space, and they get the idea to do so as well, so
Yeah.
it's honestly just so smart.
Thank you.
No,
No, I
for sure.
appreciate it. I mean, I want more people to know that they're just spaces that consider them at a very
Mhm.
foundational level.
And you have gone even beyond just individual members and
Hmm.
have gone to corporate members as well.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So the corporate membership was understanding companies, of course, that want to innovate are always looking for cool spaces.
Mhm.
And this is actually one thing that I always like, I never liked. No one likes when the business chooses business money over your membership,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so
You feel
it's
like
like,
they starting to sell out.
it's true, and I'm a woman, I can't be the man, you know what I'm
Okay,
saying? So
okay.
so it's like when we opened up this space from my first company experience, the corporate days were always Wednesday and Thursday, sometimes Tuesdays.
Okay, so
S
you designate days so that the members already
Yes.
know.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's so true. So people were like, "Why are y'all closed on Wednesday and Thursday?" And it's
Mhm.
like, well, because just 95% of the corporate companies, they want these days. They
Mm.
want they're having, and it's probably the psychology of like the middle of the week, give people a little
Mhm.
break,
Yeah.
And so and some of the companies wanted the full space, which means we would have had to shut down because the money's like, we're still a business. You still want that money.
Mhm.
But I never want to have to do the "we're closed" on the door and you came from Long Island or wherever you
Yeah.
came from to
Mhm.
come here and you're like, that disappointment is what I wanted to avoid.
Mhm.
So what we launched is a corporate membership that has 3 tiers as well,
Okay.
because we wanna appeal to the nonprofit that's just getting started,
Mhm.
that it's not there, so they don't have a number of plus ones, they have rollover passes. So it's really the company that's the member,
I
and they get to
see.
give these out to clients, to their own employees, and now they have a place to hang out and chill or do meetups. And the truth is sometimes you don't always wanna go to a random bar. Sometimes people
Mhm.
don't know what they're in for in certain
Yeah.
environments. Well, you know that this is a space, you know what to expect. You've got games, the food, the tacos be hitting, like the owner from Texas or something,
I saw someone eating tacos when I went. I'm like, those are good.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's nice to know that. And then there are other, corporate companies that that were members and partners like Microsoft and Logitech, who we built games with, Samsung and different divisions, and so they are, Twitch. They're leveraging this space to bring their creators, to
Mm.
host events, to do activations. We did, like the Disney Secret Invasion release. They brought a bunch of influencers to capture content and
Okay.
talk about it. So they're using the space for different reasons as well.
How do they discover you?
That's a really good question. It's actually the number one question we ask on our form. It's like, how'd you find
How'd
out
you
about
find us?
us? So some of it is definitely SEO. I
Okay.
think at least I try to do better now at more publicity. I always say,
Mm.
people like, Jay, you're actually doing stuff. You need to be out here, girl. And I'm like, well, when you're doing the work, you're not always out there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's so
It's a whole other job in and of
it's a whole
itself.
other job in and of itself. And so we have done stuff like, Fox 5, shout out to Ryan because they're amazing. Twice, actually, Good Day New York, Good Night New York. So there's like some level of press. We are on a couple of Netflix docu-series. So we've, kind of had some level, but I think a lot of it comes from my probably image as a recording artist. I get a lot of speaking engagements about not even me being a performer, but really like an artist who is a CEO and what innovation looks like in a creator society. I talk a lot about the crossover between creative and technical, especially in the age of AI. So I do a lot of keynote engagements. So I think I'm like one of our great ambassadors. But I think our community is probably like that word of mouth is so real. So you're going to always have haters if you're doing anything. But I love that our community and our members are very strong. They're like, no, Coexist saved my life. They're saying things like, Coexist is a hug that I didn't know that I needed. There are words that, like, if I look at too many testimonials, I get legitimately emotional because it's one thing to have like a shiny toy, but to know that it's actually changed people's lives. We have ushered in tens of millions of dollars of revenue into our community, from publishing deals to jobs to creating them and plugging them in with other resources, from the mayor's office to publications.
Wow.
You know, like this ecosystem, like it's working. It's really affecting people's lives. Our members have gone on tour together.
Wow.
You know, we've had like Rock Nation, Atlantic come to the space looking for talent. Jim Jones announced that he released his distribution, label at the space at our Music Monday. We've had over 5,000 artists perform on our stages. It's like, it's really real.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes seeing those numbers to be like, yo, we're really doing that.
That's amazing.
In the lives of people without outside investor capital, mind you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Without outside investor capital.
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
It wasn't. The truth is, in 2020, that was my first time trying to raise capital, and I had never been in the fundraising world.
Okay.
So I was learning about venture capital and private equity and home offices, just like the institutional world of funding. At that time, everything was esports. And like, I'm a former fighting game champion. So I'm used to being.
Talk that talk.
Listen. And it's like.
Wait, which game?
But so 4 titles: Tekken Tag, Soul Calibur, Dead or Alive 4, and Virtual Fighter 2.
Talk that talk. She said, okay, so.
The only reason I even mention it is because I'm used to being in rooms with like a bunch of guys, like being the only girl in the room, which is a part of like why I wanted to create this environment where girls could want to chill. And but they were all focused on esports, which wasn't even 1% of the entire industry.
Isn't that $1 billion industry, esports?
I'm so glad you said that. 1 billion. It's like, what are the 200 billion?
Okay.
And it was in the development. And I have started off keynote addresses and said, it's a lot of letters and a lot of syllables. But if you do it right, you're doing it every day. It's called development. And people start to think about it differently, but they were not trying to hear me in 2020 when I was saying my credibility came from competing in games. But you can't just focus on that. It's not only not scalable. If you need a 100,000 square foot arena, it's not scalable, and it's not sustainable if your primary revenue stream is off the same sponsorships. Everyone's vying for that. So what I was building was this ecosystem that we currently have that has been profitable, that will be more all-encompassing of the demographic. But they didn't understand. All they were like was like, no, esports, we're going to buy a team. We're going to get this franchise. We're going to more and more of the same, which is not actually super social, can be toxic. It's like perpetuating some of the narratives we're trying to kind of dismantle.
100%.
But that's where all the money was being funneled into. So anyone deviating from that, no matter how scalable or sustainable, they were not getting the attention of institutional lenders. And now all of those investments, those companies have been decimated.
Wow.
They either don't exist or they have lost hundreds of billions with a B.
Wow.
And I don't want to be like, I told you so. Where the camera? But you could still coexist. It's not too late.
I absolutely love that. And I think it really is a matter of you don't know what you don't know. And I feel like the equivalent is, especially like within the Black community, you know, we all love and watch and like to play sports, right?
Yeah.
But there's a whole ecosystem. You don't have to be the NBA player, you don't have to be the NFL player. You can get a chunk of that check as an agent, working for a team, working in the front
Talk
office.
about it.
And that's exactly what you did with
Yes.
gaming. And with you saying all of those stats that you did, I forgot
Mhm.
the numbers. It was like millions
Yes.
of people,
Yes.
50% of them of color. It's so imperative for them to understand that there are other ways for you to make money in something that you're actually passionate about and
Yes.
explore other skills. Like, you don't have to be the professional gamer.
You you just said something so important, and that's exactly what I started showing on slides. If it's a national basketball association,
Mhm.
why are you just focused on the starting five?
Mhm.
Because really, that's what they were doing. Esports is the competitive sector of gaming,
Mhm.
but most gamers are not competitive. As a
Mm.
matter of fact, the largest revenue generator is so casual, it's on a phone.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
we took as a slide on several of our decks, it says video game is and a TV screen. And what I did was extract all of the different creative jobs took to make that one video game.
Mm.
And honestly, a lot of people have been educated because of stages that I've been on. And I'm grateful for that
Mhm.
because that is a part of what I'm searching to do to transform the narrative about where opportunity is in the industry. And I was like, as a recording artist, there is music in every game. Why are we not building ecosystems around how music programs and software and hardware can be integrated into the music
Mhm.
in the game?
Mhm.
Not just sync licensing opportunities, but
Mhm.
peeling that back as well, because there's education and business behind understanding that art as well. But then the
Mm.
characters that we love so much, we cosplay as them.
Mhm.
Why is fashion not included in that? Let me introduce that into this market. So we started reaching into non-endemic companies, the Gucci Gaming Academy, Valentino, makeup brands
Wow.
like Sephora, and I mean not a brand, but a consolidation of brands. And now like companies like Elf have really been significant contributors in the gaming industry, Dark and Lovely, and creating IP around people of color, women with hair, taking tech and making sure that that
Wow.
hair looks as realistic as it does in real life. But then those characters, there's stories that we fall in love with, like with anime characters.
Mhm.
Somebody's writing those stories. Why are we not focusing on the narrative writers? It was really, and this is my engineering self. It
Mhm.
was like, why are we not breaking down the minutia
Yeah.
in why this is a $200 billion industry? You feel me?
Wow.
And that's what our ecosystem is built on. And that's where the programming is the realization
Mhm.
of that ecosystem.
Oh my
And that
god.
alone should transform people's mentality about why business is massive, how many people are involved, and how imperative it is for that representation to be right.
Wow. I love that. And that really, I feel like, just perpetuates the narrative that there is always a job for whatever you're passionate in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time that gets overlooked.
Hmm.
And I want to emphasize that because when you are operating within your passion, 9 times out of 10, it's aligned to your purpose in some sort of way. And when you're aligned with your purpose, that leads to the fulfillment of
I
your
agree.
life.
I agree.
Now, you mentioned that there were three prominent ways that people found you: SEO, of course, word of mouth, but
Hmm.
also being on stages. And this is a personal one for me because I'm
Hmm.
trying to get my best friend who's a founder to be
Okay.
on the camera more, a
Okay.
woman of color, but she's
Yeah.
like, I'm the brains behind the operation. Like, let me stay here. But I feel like a lot of people do
Yeah.
fall in love with that founder story.
Hmm.
How would you encourage someone to really get in front of the camera, tell their story, like, really just emphasize what that importance does for the business?
Yeah. So when I would say to your friend and every founder, anyone that's interested in investing what you've built, they're always investing in you.
Mhm.
The thing that you're building comes from you. You are the investment. So however you choose to most authentically help them understand where this vision derived from is really the goal. And so I would tell your friend, like, if there's a reason maybe she doesn't want to be on camera, let's do it in audio.
Mm.
Just prioritize doing it.
Mhm.
Even if it's writing down your thoughts, creating an audiobook, maybe publicizing that publication or something. And then, yes, take advantage of your glowing, radiant, beautiful best friend. And like, do something visual so that they understand who they're investing in because really it is us. That founder mentality we're birthing things that did not exist the way we're creating them, right? So that perspective matters. And I just think it's really important that every founder understand that. I speak a lot to founders because when we're creating our investment deck, you don't always know. At some point, you got to learn how to do it, right? If you're raising capital. And you don't just know that. That's not even a world that we always grow up playing in. So telling the story becomes the most important skill, actually, I think that you can really learn because you are helping them understand in a very concise way who I am, where this came from, and where I'm going to take it. And if you can master that, on some level and find the right people, they will just start to invest in you, but then on a certain level, show them how you can really grow versions and iterations of you so that, God forbid anything happens to you, your vision it continues to live and thrive on.
That is beautiful. I love that. Now, Jay, you have been honestly unstoppable in basically whatever that you have put your mind to. $1 million contract as a musician, got Amex offering you $250,000, $250 per person for your sommelier class, and now you're doing groundbreaking work within the gaming industry. What do you feel like is the cornerstone between all of those things that makes you successful in whatever industry?
You know what? It's always impact for me. I'm not even motivated by money. I just understand it's a tool that I need in order to continue to navigate through dimensions. But the impact, it has been the driving force. I have always wanted to disrupt preconceived notions. One time I did an interview and this guy was like, "But you're a gamer?" And I said, "Oh man," I said, "I thought it was going to be just you and I, but since you brought all of your preconceived notions with you, I'm going to talk to all of y'all."
I love it.
And I was just like, I like to disrupt people who kind of like live in boxes, Like I did one talk where I was like, "Do y'all hear that? Do y'all hear that? That's the sound of me breaking out of that box you put me in. Now do it for yourselves. Everybody take a moment." It was like really,
That's so powerful.
yes, because societally, things are just not binary. I always say no one person is one thing. And in every industry, like if you take wine, this is a thing in Western civilization that people don't always know about, right? It's, for one thing, it's in a cultural bracket, right? So it can be deemed elitist. It's right up there with like, maybe art, going to a museum, certain things. But the reality is it's like your palate. It's your body. You don't want to understand what you like, but the way you think about it and the way you're exposed to it is really important. So first, it was creating an environment that would allow people to feel welcomed and dismantling them. I did the same thing with the gaming industry. There was some perception you had about who a gamer is, where the environment is, who's in there. I don't know if that's, and it's like it was all about disruption. So with wine, a lot of wine somms, they were just obnoxious. And I was like, well, were you like that when you were getting stuff wrong, when you were trying to figure out which varietal this one was over another? And so with blind tasting, because it was just a lot of things we did that were very non-conventional. Like as somms, we blind taste, right? So you don't know what is in the glass, but you're ascertaining the producer, the vintage, the varietal itself, what the medium viscosity, like acidity levels, all these things. But you're closing your eyes when you do it a lot of times because now you're looking at it, of course, the color, everything is telling you something. You are using your body to give you information based off what you know. And it's like, if we could apply this to everything, if we could hone in on what we need to hyper focus on. So when we blind taste, it augments your olfactory bulbs, which sends millions of neurotransmitters to your brain to sort of ascertain you're smelling all the time. You're always smelling and you're like, oh my God, that smells like bread. And something reminds you of a memory. So it was taking this one thing, like these grapes that were fermented wine, and it was telling you the price doesn't necessarily attach itself to the value or quality of the wine. And that was very disruptive because it's like, are you saying this $20 bottle can compete with something that costs $200? And I'm like, that's exactly what I said, And it's like in an industry that's like really old, it's like, well, how are you able to prove that? Like this, we deconstructed the wine. And we put in the glass what you just said as a psalm, cigar and black cassis and chocolate and thyme and all of these really cool things. Taking that and applying it to everything that I'm passionate about is really so that I want people to live life authentically.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to find the freedoms and who they are and be okay with that, because that's like living in a truth that the world can shut down.
Mm-hmm.
We are so powerful if we live in that authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay if it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's freeing if we exist in that place, but we live in a lot of mental captivity. And I just kind of want us to break free from it. And it's almost like using industries in order to do that, whether it is music, whether it's wine, or it's gaming, or it's hospitality. It's like taking industries that feel bigger than us. But that's why I'm like, is the world really small, or are we big in it?
I love that so much. You said that to me yesterday. I was like,
Mhm.
ooh, that hit me.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you've done a really good job of building community in
Mhm.
any industry.
Thank
If
you.
someone does want to build a community-based business, what would
Yeah.
you say is the most important thing that they need to take into consideration?
Knowing the reason why they want to build it,
Mm.
and then understand the needs of the people they want to build it for.
Mm.
That part.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what are you doing and why?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand your why, you can easily lose sight of your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to have the thing that makes you want to keep going even when you don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's important that I build a world. Like, as an artist, it was a very selfish career. Like, not that I was being selfish, but you have to focus on you. You are the priority. So everything you sort of surround yourself with is very honed in on you.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't as fulfilled exclusively in that terrain. I needed to build something that felt bigger than me, that felt like legacy, that felt like something that people could take with them and own, which is the same thing I did with wine. I want you to leave with this education, and you walk in a store and you're thinking about what I taught you, no matter where you are in the world, because you learned something that's now a part of who you are and your knowledge base.
Yeah.
So with that community, it's like, who are you reaching?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my biggest issues with a lot of tech is people build tech and then market it for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why don't you understand what people need and build around that?
Yep.
And I think it's very much the same at the impetus of building a community.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you trying to reach? Why are you trying to reach them? And why do you feel like you should be the one to do it?
Mm-hmm.
All of those whys give you an understanding. Another scripture, with all thy getting, get understanding, but it really matters. Like, you just need to understand why you are making this choice. If it's money, then understand, okay, cool. How can I make money from this while at the same time creating impact that will help them achieve something they're looking for? Everyone has a need. What is your place in helping them achieve the need? And why are you the best one to do it?
I love that. And you've honestly clearly done a really good job of that with
Thank you.
Coexist. And I think sometimes as founders, what we can get caught up in, it's like you put so much time and effort and mental bandwidth into building this thing. Then it's like, okay, I have this shiny thing that I want to present to you guys. But you also do have to receive feedback. You have to build with the community, because sometimes what you've put all of your time and effort into
Right.
isn't exactly what they need.
True.
And it could take a lot of ego death in order to really accept that and also execute on it. So I love that you brought that in.
Yeah. And that's part of the journey too. Like, but this brand is about people. That girl, I will change. I changed the whole lounge.
I know you're talking about, okay, we adjusted the height of the arcade game for the accessibility. Like, that's huge.
Yeah. Because I know if I'm not going to always be there, it's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I joke around, people, they're like, oh my God, Coexist your baby. I'm like, it's not my baby. I'm not going to sell my baby,
Right. That part.
But I'm definitely like, I put very much the community part of that first, because there are other parts of the business that I monetize because of the business need, and they're very B2B. And I'm also really good at B2B. Do you know what I mean? So I also understand my strength. Like, while I'm good at building community, particularly at the beginning phase, it's like establishing the operations, understanding logistically what our human need is, and then organizing that. I also love finding other leaders and empowering them to say, hey, so I'm not going to be here to do this part, but I love this about you. and I want to empower you to carry out these operations. And I'm good at delegating because I'm not a micromanager.
I mean, you have to be a good delegator if you want to scale and sell and retire in another country.
It's true, right? But I think it's important that you know, like, while I may be good at building community, are you the best at managing that community? And you know what I mean? Because it's like, can my skill set be optimized elsewhere? And that is a part of it. It's like knowing, okay, Jay, you did this part, you're good at laying down the infrastructure. Now bring in someone who can operate the infrastructure that you built and continue to build on top of that. And then you go and be over here. You know, I think that's really important too.
Absolutely.
With the community aspect, because you are managing people.
Yep.
If you're not always great at managing people, then it's like, you know, sis, you did a really good job at bringing them here. Now get a coach. You know what I mean? You still own the team, but get a winning coach.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I always like to close out with the same question.
Yeah.
The definition of purpose is the reason for the reason for which someone or something exists. Do you feel like you're currently living within your purpose?
It's funny, I was going to say for the first time, like, yes, completely. I think purpose isn't singular, right? I have definitely had moments where I'm like, am I living in purpose? But I feel like I have never lived maybe more authentically, because it's very vulnerable when you are building something for people. I totally get when businesses are like, I'm B2B, I want to be B2B only, because people are emotional, we have needs, we feel. But it is a beautiful challenge to know that I can be a vessel that can create impact, that can empower, that can leverage everything that God has allowed me to experience and endure, and that be transcribed into a Hadouken level of power. It's a gaming reference for you people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think if we take our sorrows, the pains, the obstacles, the hurt, and you merge it all together, imagine how many more people you can now connect to than if you didn't experience any of it. And so for me, this purpose, it starts to make sense of my life and all the different lives I've lived, and how I can talk to the homeless guy because I've been there, and I can talk to the CEO of this company because I am there. And it's like, that's what God looks like to me, just like, use me. And when we say that, it's like, you sure? Because God gonna put you through some experiences to be optimally used. And I felt so very, like, very full. And the manifestation of that fullness it really looks like the impact that I'm now creating. And I know that God is not even remotely done, but I'm glad that I'm open enough to, like, be a vessel that can be poured into, but at the same time poured out of.
I love that so much, because I do feel like when you do call or ask God and the higher power to use you, that's normally when the RICO happens. Everybody leaving your life. You go through some hard times, but that's where the light shows. The light shows through the cracks. And so you need to be okay with that vulnerability, because that is when you are being molded and built for something bigger beyond yourself.
I agree.
Well, what a beautiful way to close out. Jay, thank you I honestly cannot thank you enough. This is just the beginning for our relationship. I hope you know, girl.
I know.
Like,
I'm a lifer. I'm in here.
No, for real. But thank you so much. Meeting you from Cannes to now has just been such a blessing. So I'm just so excited to see where you take your journey. I'm excited to be a part of your journey now. I'm going to be up at Coexist, you best believe. And we're going to have our dinners. So for real, thank you so much thank you for sharing your insights, your gems, your space, your energy. You are a mutual unicorn energy. So thank you for bringing that to this podcast.
Thank you, Mama. I have had a blast.
Okay. Oh, I feel so fulfilled.
I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh,
it's amazing.